Hi guys, welcome to the first video on Slots Thoughts. I wanted to make this first initial video relating to do with something with horror, but I couldn't give up the chance to talk about The Batman. If you guys have not seen it yet, go watch it, go get your tickets. They might be sold out. I bought my tickets about a month in advance to be able to go watch it in Dolby because you know it's better. But go. The movie is 2 hours and 56 minutes, guys. So for all my Marvel people, you know that the movies are usually 3 hours long. For all my Star Wars people, same thing. Lord of the Rings, all these things. But listen, I'm telling you, it is amazing. So we have a huge cast, right? We have Robert Pattinson playing the Batman. And listen, we all know his previous relationship bats, okay? Vampires. Some little sparkling guy along over there yonder, you know? It doesn't matter. We're not going to talk about it. Then we got Zoe Kravitz, the beautiful, the stunning, the great actress, Zoe Kravitz playing Catwoman. We know her from Mad Max Fury Road. She's in Big Little Lies, and she's just beautiful. I have Colin Farrell. He plays the Penguin. Almost unrecognizable, honestly. Word to the makeup department. Then we also have Paul Dano that plays the Riddler. He's actually really well known for Prisoners. If you haven't seen that movie, it's a really good movie. You should go watch it. And then we also have Jeffrey Wright, who is from Westworld. He plays James Gordon, and phenomenal job. Lastly, as one of the main actors, we have Andy Serkis, who plays Alfred. Not the Alfred we see in The Dark Knight, not the Alfred from the new DC movies, a new Alfred. Andy Serkis. We know him as Gollum from Lord of the Rings. He's also Caesar in Planet of the Apes. Phenomenal actor, right? New Alfred. So this movie went beyond my expectations. But we're going to take a step behind the scenes first before talking about the actual movie, because I think that everything else deserves its own credit, and it's all part of the merit that made this movie so amazing to watch, right? So we start with the director, Matt Reeves, who is also known for creating the Planet of the Apes movies, which, as mentioned before, is where we've seen Andy Serkis before as Caesar. He's also known for making Let Me In, which is the American version of Let the Right One In, which is a Swedish movie. Matt Reeves is also known for making Cloverfield. Not one of my favorite movies, but actually a very good movie. It's a good movie. Then we have the cinematographer, Greg Fraser, who's known for Zero Dark 30, Rogue One, and as of recently, Dune. Then we have music, which, if you know me, music for a movie, music makes a movie, and I'm very big on it. You know, I was a lover of Hans Zimmer in the Dark Knight trilogy, Hans Zimmer in Interstellar, Hans Zimmer in Inception, Hans Zimmer in anything. The music in Batman is made by Michael Giacchino. Michael Giacchino is actually known for making music for movies like Zootopia, The Incredibles, a bunch of other Disney and Pixar movies. Music, the soundtracks, they're awesome, and they make the movie. He's also known for making the music for Planet of the Apes, which, as mentioned before, Matt Reeves, Andy Serkis. There's an ongoing theme here. Michael Giacchino is actually really well known for making the music for Rogue One, which, as many of you know, is a Star Wars film, and Star Wars movies always have John Williams as a composer. So Rogue One was the first Star Wars movie that had music from someone that wasn't John Williams. Fun fact. And also, lastly, we have the makeup artist, Mike Marino, known for doing the makeup for music videos for The Weeknd. He's also known for doing the makeup for Black Swan. And also, he's known for doing the makeup for the show True Detective, which, if you guys haven't seen, I've heard is really great. I haven't seen it yet, but I will soon, or tomorrow. Now, going into the actual film, we are introduced to a new type of Batman in this movie. No spoilers, but it's a detective form of Batman, right? Which we haven't really seen in the past. We've seen Batman in the Dark Knight trilogy. That's this really rich man who kind of just focuses on the techie side of his like persona of the movie fighting the villains. Dark Knight is probably one of my favorite films. In this new movie, we have Detective Batman, and he's only 2 years into his Batman career, right? His master's in Batmanology. Only 2 years into his career, very detective oriented, very kind of like a mystery kind of film where you have to kind of like decipher clues and try to figure out everything that's going on. And I think it was very enjoyable. A fun fact about this was that Ben Affleck was supposed to write, produce, and act as the Batman when this film was first thought of. But as of 2017, Ben Affleck kind of had his own reservations about the whole project, and so he backed out. perfectly fine. Matt Reeves stepped in and he took over, and obviously was a much better route. So basically, when Matt Reeves took over the reins to film the Batman, he kind of took out all the DCU connections and he took it more the detective route, which I was a complete fan of. And actually, he took inspiration from Year One, which is a great comic, Ego, and The Long Halloween. And that's kind of what he used to build his Batman detective-esque persona and kind of put it into film version. Unfortunately, Miss Rona, Miss COVID-19, the queen of our 2020 fiasco of a year, yet again harmed us by postponing the release of this movie, because it was supposed to come out and it got postponed twice because of COVID. So, but you know, at the end of the day, we got it. 2022, March, not too bad. We didn't have to wait till the end of the year, so it was okay. An interesting fact, actually, is that Matt Reeves based the Batman in this movie on Kurt Cobain, which is the lead singer of Nirvana, as many of you know, I'm sure, because he was kind of like a reclusive type of guy. He also based Edward, which is the Riddler, on the Zodiac Killer, which he actually did this when he was noticing similarities between the Riddler and the Zodiac Killer as he was reading Mindhunter, which, side note, Mindhunter, amazing book written by the FBI agents who were dealing in the behavioral science unit of the FBI. And, you know, they're the same FBI agents who coined the term serial killer. They basically implemented criminal profiling, and also is now a show on Netflix called Mindhunter. Amazing show. You should watch it. Back to Batman. Fun fact number 573, Matt Reeves was listening to Nirvana's song Something in the Way as he was writing the movie's first act, which is actually pretty cool because during the first part of the movie and at the end of the movie, Something in the Way from Nirvana is playing in the background, which I don't know about you guys, but I love Nirvana, and so hearing that during the movie definitely pulled me in a little more, especially considering that I really love soundtracks for movies. So Reeves actually said that this movie blends quite a couple genres in film, and the genres that he said were detective, action, horror, and psychological thriller. And I would actually agree with all four, because I feel like the Batman has aspects and it implements a bunch of things from these different genres, and it just makes it like a really come together film, and I think that he did an amazing job in doing this. Actually, since Warner Brothers incorporated the multiverse in its DC productions, they allowed Matt Reeves to kind of take this project on his own, whatever path he wanted to. And so something that I didn't know that I learned doing the research for this movie review was that the film takes place in another world called Earth 2. Robert Pattinson, actually, in order to get ready for the Batman, didn't really just bulk up and get huge like, you know, Christian Bale for Batman or Tom Hardy for Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. He not only trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he also studied up on the comics. He read on the comics that Matt Reeves took inspiration from to create the detective-esque Batman in the film, and it kind of helped him get a better idea of how to play him in this movie, because it's a different Batman than we've seen in The Dark Knight, different Batman than we've seen with Batfleck in Batman vs. Superman, and in Justice League it's kind of like a completely new take on him, and I'm sure he kind of needed like complete new information and resources to really play him in a new way. And actually, while Robert Pattinson was working on Tenet with Christopher Nolan, who actually made the Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan gave him some tips, some little tricks to help him play a good Batman in The Batman. Even if it was a completely different Batman from the one that Christopher Nolan created for the Dark Knight trilogy. Paul Dano, actually, who plays the Riddler in The Batman, also took it upon himself to do some research in order to play the Riddler in a little more creepy and, you know, sinister way. And he did that by studying up on a lot of serial killer information. And, you know, being a serial killer fanatic over here, I thought that was really interesting. And I thought it was actually really funny that Paul Dano had to read the serial killer, all the things that he was reading about it in public, because he found the facts of all these things so disturbing that he didn't want to read it in private because he was getting too creeped out. So he would just read it in public, which I find just kind of funny. Paul Dano was actually very creepy in the movie Prisoners, which has Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal as the two main co-stars, basically. And Paul Dano plays a very, very good possible perpetrator in that movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I don't want to spoil it, but he plays a very creepy guy in that movie. So I don't think it was a huge leap to playing the Riddler, but I think it was like a very cool thing. Matt Reeves actually wrote the Riddler's character in the movie based on how Paul Dano would play him. So he was writing it with him in mind, not Paul Dano having to kind of like adjust to a Riddler character already made. I actually wanted to touch up on Zoe Kravitz because I didn't know that she had already voiced Catwoman in the past for Lego Batman, actually. And funny enough, she had wanted to audition for Catwoman for The Dark Knight Rises, which is the third installment of the trilogy from Christopher Nolan. But she was told she was too urban for the part. And so recently it came out that of her speaking about that and how it affected her negatively and how she had reservations about doing it now. But thankfully, you know, she went through with it. Matt Reeves got her on board as well, and it was a great portrayal. I think she killed it as Catwoman. She also drew inspiration from Michelle Pfeiffer when she was Catwoman many, many years ago. But I think it was a great, phenomenal Catwoman. This film is actually supposed to be the first in a trilogy, so let's see how it goes and if they do implement other ones. At the end of the movie, no spoilers, but we do see a couple little hints about possible characters that we could be seeing in the future. Others say that it is a standalone film. Whether or not that's the case, I think it was a phenomenal film regardless. It actually reminds me of The Joker, which, you know, blew me away with how good it was. Joaquin Phoenix absolutely killed it in that role. I think he was amazing. I'm not gonna say he was better than Heath Ledger, but it was a completely different Joker. Same as I wouldn't say Robert Pattinson was a greater Batman than Christian Bale was in The Dark Knight, because I love The Dark Knight and I also think they're two completely different forms of Batman, and therefore I don't think it's fair to say one is greater than the other or better than the other, I'm sorry, but they're both amazing. I do want to touch on some likes and dislikes of the movie, some pros and cons, if you will. Again, this is just my opinion, and also no spoilers, don't worry, but also get to it to watch it. I do want to say that the acting in this movie is A1. Robert Pattinson, listen, I'm sure a lot of you, including myself, were very hesitant when they announced Robert Pattinson was going to be Batman. I, for one, was completely outraged. I was like, what is this? The Twilight guy? Like, is Batman gonna start shining in the sunlight? Which is fine because Gotham's always dark. But honestly, I was blown away. I thought he was really great. The acting from Zoe Kravitz, Jeffrey Wright, you know, Paul Dano, Colin Farrell as Penguin, super, super good. And all the other actors as well. It was just... it's such good acting that it doesn't take you out of it where you're kind of like, oh, this scene doesn't seem believable because they can't act. And also the acting well together of these actors when Batman and Catwoman are in the same room, or Batman and Penguin, or all these other characters, the way that the actors are able to play off each other, I think was very good. So I give the acting a 10 out of 10. Some other cool aspects of the movie, as I said earlier, the music. Soundtrack to me in a film is pretty much as high up there as acting for me, because it could easily take you in or pull you out of a scene if the music is not good, if it doesn't make sense. So I think music is very important, and the soundtrack to this film is just phenomenal. I immediately tried going on Spotify and I found it. I found the soundtrack. You know, it's just, I love it. I do love that it was more of a detective slash thriller movie. It wasn't as much really action-packed as the previous The Dark Knight trilogy, for example, which, as I said, I love. At least The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. Not a big fan of Batman Begins, but that's something separate. Also, the previous Batman with Batfleck, Batman vs. Superman, great movie. Justice League, nah. But you know, this is a brand new Batman, so it's a detective Batman. It's very mysterious, very chilling. You have to really like pay attention to all the little clues, because there's a bunch of like little, I guess you could call them like Easter eggs, that as a fan, if you really know the comics or the graphic novels, or at least the lore of Batman, you will kind of pick up different things from the scenes, from Gotham, from all the little knickknacks that they put around there. The fighting scenes in the movie, although not many, they were very good. I do not think they looked like choreographed. I think they looked very real. Robert Pattinson did a really good job in fighting as a Batman. All the was really good, and I think that's very important, because there's a lot of movies where the fighting just looks choreographed. The nightmare scene in Batman vs. Superman, for example, but we're not gonna point fingers. But This movie had really good fighting scenes, which is something that I thought was really well made. Now that leads me to my dislikes. My number one would be that there wasn't that much fighting. But like I said, it was not more of an action film. It was more of a thriller, mystery kind of film, detective-wise. So it's okay. I'll let that one slide, that there's not that much fighting. My boyfriend, who I did go watch it with, said that there wasn't enough fighting for him. I don't think so. I feel like I needed more, considering that it's Batman. But I'll let it slide because it's not the main focus of the film, so it's fine. So I think that that was pretty much my only dislike of the movie. It is very long, but I don't think it was dragged out, because there's a lot of films that are long unnecessarily, and they kind of just milk the scenes or kind of just prolong things with like shots of people just like staring at each other. But I think this film was long with a purpose, and I think it was well made. Also, one more point that I wanted to make was how dark this movie was. It was more of a gloomy, not dark, just the scenes, which is one thing, because Gotham in this film is very, very dark. It's not like The Dark Knight where it's super bright and it's a very bustling city. This movie kind of reminds me of a dirtier, grittier New York, and it looks like it too. And it also really reminds me of the Gotham in Joker. And I wish that there was a way to put both of these movies together, both Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and Robert Pattinson's Batman, in a film. But I'm also really happy just leaving Joker as a standalone film and the Batman either alone or however they decide to take it. But I do love how dark it was, and it did remind me of Joker, which is why I wanted to mention it. So overall, the plot of the movie was great. I think everything is well explained. I don't think you're left with any questions, at least not me personally. I pretty much understood the film. And I think that's very important, because if you're just caught up there trying to understand what's going on, I don't think that that makes a good movie, because you're kind of just lost the whole time and confused. And that can kind of take away from your experience, because you're just in your head trying to figure things out. And I think this film kind of does a better job of making you want to figure things out, but not because you need to. It's just because you're trying to solve the mystery of the film. It's not because you're not understanding what's going on. And I think that's very important, and a very important distinction. The characters were good. The pacing, as much as I said the film does not feel long with no purpose, I do wish that at some points the pacing was a little quicker, but I think that it's necessary to keep it how it is in order to fully understand and also really appreciate the characters and the acting and the way that everything plays off each other and the little things that you can pick up on scenes. And you'll see what I mean when you watch the movie, but when you're in certain buildings, certain offices, there's kind of things in the background where you kind of need to pick it up. And if you're a fan, if you've read the comics, or like I said, if you know any of the lore about Batman or Gotham, it's kind of helpful because you're able to pick up little things that maybe you wouldn't pick up if the pacing was really fast. Enjoyability, I would rate it as a 10, but that's because I love Batman. There's people who have gone to see it who don't necessarily love Batman and maybe kind of just went to see it as a standalone movie, and they're kind of mixed reviews in the sense of, oh yeah, it was really good, like I haven't watched other Batman films, but I love this. And then other people who are like, I wish there was more action-packed stuff. And I don't think that that's needed, because I think this is a completely new form of Batman, and that alone is fine. There's no need to make it explosions every 2 seconds. I believe the ending was very good. This is not a spoiler, but I will let you know for the people that are going to go watch it. There is no after credit scene. This is not Marvel. We're not going to sit there for 3 hours after the movie's done to watch 5 different post-credit scenes. But which is fine, because I love Marvel movies. I'm not a Marvel girl, but the Marvel movies are good. But there is no after credit scene, but the ending of the movie does feel like it's come to a close. There are aspects of the ending that will leave you wanting more. So I do hope that they hopefully make more movies, as they say. But if that doesn't happen, as a standalone film, I think it was great. And the ending was very good, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. So I think that it was fine. Overall, I think I would give this movie a solid 9 out of 10. And that's simply because, like I said, I wish there was a little more fighting. And I know I've kind of contradicted myself in this video talking about the fighting and how you don't need it and how I want it. But I only want more because Robert Pattinson did so good as the Batman and the fighting. Obviously, it's not just his credit for the fighting scenes, but I wish I would have seen a little more of it, so I would give it like a 9 out of 10. But that's really the only reason why. Maybe even a 9.5 out of 10. I don't know, but I think I'll leave it as a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Again, if you haven't seen The Batman, I highly suggest you go out and do that. If you have any suggestions for any other films, shows, documentaries, or topics that you'd like me to talk about, go ahead and comment or send me a message, and I'll be more than happy to look into them and then talk about them. This is something that I'm trying to spend more time on and really dedicate to it because it is a big passion of mine. I love films. I love things that have to do with horror. I love learning about serial killers and also about random things. And I just want to have a space where I can do that and then people can enjoy it. So again, if you liked this, please like, follow, subscribe, share, anything you can. I would greatly appreciate it. And thank you for watching. And I hope that if you do go see The Batman, you go ahead and comment and let me know what you thought. Let me know your ratings and your thoughts. And I would love to read that. So thank you.